My name is Nate Willems. I'm born and raised in Anamosa. I live in Mount Vernon. As of March 1, my wife Maggie and I have 3 teenage daughters now at home. Maggie is a high school social studies teacher and volleyball coach. I'm a labor lawyer in Cedar Rapids, and I'm running for Attorney General to defeat Brenna Bird. Yeah. So, yeah, a long time ago, I had the great opportunity to serve in the Iowa House of Representatives. I was a leader on issues for working people. I passed into law legislation which penalizes insurance companies who deny workers' compensation claims without good reason. I fought against those early efforts to strip away the rights of public sector workers to bargain a union contract. I also spent a lot of time working on education issues. I was the lead Democrat on the House Education Committee fighting against efforts to blame and shame public school teachers or get rid of 4-year-old preschool, or those early efforts to divert money into voucher programs. Every day that I had the opportunity to go up those stairs and serve inside that chamber, I went to work for good paying jobs with dignity, a good education, and health care for Iowans. After leaving the legislature, in my law office, I'm a partner at a law firm called Rush and Nicholson in Cedar Rapids. And every day, I go to work for good paying jobs with dignity and health care for Iowans. I represent unions all across the state, public sector and private sector, from Carter Lake to Clinton County and Cedar Falls down to Keokuk. A number of years ago, I won the biggest ever union wage increase in Iowa history for the police officers in Carter Lake. I'm actually just in federal court. I'm still a practicing lawyer. I've just been in federal court here within the last couple of weeks on behalf of UFCW Local 431 at Kraft Heinz in Davenport, where we have a pension dispute that Kraft Heinz has tried to refuse to arbitrate. And actually just this past week, we got a great ruling from Judge Rose in federal court that's going to compel Kraft Heinz to arbitrate this dispute with us. But when working people have the courage to stand up and stick together, I'm happy to go to work for them. I do represent workers who've been hurt on the job in work comp matters. So that, workers' compensation is, it's what right? It's somebody picking up something heavy and they hear or feel a pop in their back and feel pain radiating down their leg. But workers' compensation could also be a woman working as a CNA in a hospital who's directed to shower a patient with dementia, and the patient becomes agitated, snatches the shower head from her and starts beating her in the face with it. She recovers from the physical injuries, but will suffer from anxiety or PTSD for years. That is also workers' compensation, and it's everything in between. And then I represent workers who've had wages stolen out of their paychecks. I represented some childcare workers whose boss decided to lower their pay to minimum wage after they had already done the work. I've spent a couple of years representing grain millers at an ADM facility in Clinton whose job it was to walk miles and miles every week inside that plant and off the clock, not getting paid. And then I represented. I've been adverse to university hospitals in Iowa City any number of times, but I've represented workers at university hospitals. University hospitals used to have a policy which amounted to taking an involuntary zero-interest loan out of workers' paychecks. They would put on the website, yes, we pay overtime. Our policy is to pay overtime 1 month in arrears. So overtime that's worked in September will not be paid in October, but will eventually show up in your November paycheck. So that violates the law. We spent 4 years on that project, put together a class action of 11,000 workers and recovered $15 million for them. And now University Hospitals follows the law. I geek out on that type of work. Over the last 20 years, I've represented tens of thousands of Iowa workers, recovered tens of millions of dollars for them. And it's work that I enjoy. That's certainly why I went to law school. But then, I decided to It's a year plus ago, I decided to run for Attorney General. So then I needed to do a little bit of research about, the role of Attorney General. Some people think it's kind of funny to learn that lawyers actually have ethical rules that they're required to follow. It's called the Iowa Rules of Professional Conduct that all lawyers must follow. And prosecutors have special rules just for prosecutors within the rules of professional conduct. The Iowa Rules of Professional Conduct say that a prosecutor must act as a minister of justice. A minister of justice. I mean, does anybody think Brenna Bird has acted as a minister of justice? Would a minister of justice prevent payment for emergency contraceptives for rape victims, or would they sue to try to to strip away rights for people with disabilities? Would a minister of justice sue a county sheriff and hold up public safety funding because they did not like the sheriff's Facebook post? Would a minister of justice sue to prevent safe staffing standards going into effect at nursing homes and long-term care facilities and then brag about it? Typically when a new client comes into my office, they're oftentimes, especially an injured worker, they're oftentimes bringing to me their biggest problem in the world. And you know what they're asking for? Because it's not money. They're asking for justice. And that's what I've been proud to try to find for them over the past 20 years. The Iowa Attorney General's office is the largest law firm in the state of Iowa. It's the only one that's supposed to represent all 3.3 million Iowans. The Attorney General is supposed to be the people's lawyer. And so, the Attorney General should be trying to seek justice for workers across the state, should be trying to seek justice for consumers, for senior citizens. The Attorney General should be trying to seek justice for anyone who just happens to be an Iowan. That is precisely the kind of Attorney General that I intend to be. So I really appreciate you coming here this afternoon. I would be more than happy to take questions that folks might have. Go ahead.
In light of the stripping of civil rights from LGBTQ Iowans, where do you see your role in that, given the legislative box they put us in?
Right. So obviously, I've had that experience as a lawmaker, and this is a law enforcement position, which is very, very different. And here's kind of the analogy that makes sense to me that I talk about. When I'm dealing in my practice with a good, management lawyer, a good lawyer representing a large business or an insurance company, a good lawyer, counsels their client, right? Counsels their client as to, well, maybe you could fire this person, but is that really the best way to go? A good lawyer will counsel their client in a way that is beyond just the letter of the law. So I do think there's a role for the Attorney General to be working with the governor and be working with department heads as a counselor to the law is what the legislature has written, right? Understand that. But how can we use that law, responsibly and sensibly on behalf of Iowans, given the nature of it? That's kind of how I see the role for the AG's office, to just be a reasonable counselor for government.
I can see that as being a very difficult role as Attorney General, given what was passed. So thank you.
Go ahead.
What role would, like the Attorney General, what role do they have in all the water issues?
Sure, it's a great question. So, presently, the way I think about it, there are two significant choke points existing. One is that, the statutes that we have in the Code of Iowa are statutes which have been approved by this legislature and this governor. And then, we have the Environmental Protection Commission, that 7-member board, all of whom were appointed by Reynolds, maybe some Branstad appointees, but they're all Republican appointees. So they have been the EPC has certainly been in the habit in situations of handing out $5,000 fines and kind of administratively closing, complaints or situations which pop up. So that when that EPC says, I don't know if we're going to just give a $5,000 fine and administratively close it, maybe we're going to send this one to the Attorney General's office, that might be a big deal. That might be a big situation. It's certainly something that the Attorney General's office needs to investigate and enforce the law. Brenna Bird has certainly done the bare minimum in terms of handing out fines, or like when you see a situation where the state of Iowa files a lawsuit and settles it on the same day, your antenna should go up, right? So yeah, we do have laws which certainly can and need to be enforced and followed, and that's the role for the AG as I see it. Go ahead, Joe.
I'm not sure I understand the framework within how, like the president has his own cabinet, like Attorney General, Secretary of State, et cetera, et cetera. In Iowa, or is that the same structure? Do you counsel the president on certain, the governor on certain
right.
things? Or is it your own independent agency whereby the governor tells you, I need this done, but I can't do it? I don't know.
Well, it's obviously it's elected separate from the governor,
right?
Obviously, so so you do not work full. What was it in 2022? Kim Reynolds went around saying that I want to have my own attorney general, right? And that's not the way you should be looking at it. You should not be looking at it as though you work for the governor. But it is the job of the attorney general to advise just about every aspect, every department of state government you can possibly imagine. And there are lawyers in the AG's office that are so highly specialized. Like, for example, the lawyers that would advise the Department of Transportation and every step along the way when a 2-lane highway is being made into a 4-lane highway, and how you go about obtaining the rights to, very niche roles that are, advising every aspect of state government you can imagine. Go ahead.
And this kind of piggybacks on his question. I'm a former state employee, so I know that, every department's assigned an AG. And when it comes to a situation where an employee has filed an EEOC complaint against the department head, and there's a mediation hearing, and the AG is basically defending the department head, if the AG can tell that actually occurred, that there actually was discriminatory actions against an employee. Are you like a lawyer? I know defense lawyers, they're going to defend their client, to the hilt.
Right.
But aren't the employees and the taxpayers also the client of the Attorney General's office?
Right. Yeah. So, certainly there are situations where it's appropriate to bring in outside counsel because of, conflicts of interest. But ultimately, the Attorney General's office certainly does defend the state when the state gets sued. That is it's a very important role of the office. The special litigation, unit is full of civil litigators who are defending all manner of claims brought against the state. And so that's part of the job. You just, to do it smartly, to do it efficiently. Sometimes, sometimes in my role, I do see, I have seen in the past, the AG's office kind of over-lawyer things, file motions that, a private, an attorney in a private firm would never file, because that wouldn't be a good use of their client's resources to file an unnecessary motion. And sometimes you have seen that, which can be frustrating from the AG's office. But it's all right. It's all right.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, anyway, but obviously it's a huge part of the job is to defend the state when the state gets sued.
And that's something that, I face the exact same thing at the county level. So my civil division represents Polk County. So if somebody trips and falls at work, working and sues us, right, for something, sues the county, my office's job is to defend the county. And then that person would have their own private counsel, lawyer, et cetera. And that's just the way that it's structured. Yeah.
Yes.
Theory, there's an antitrust division within
Yes.
the Iowa Attorney General's office. Can you tell us what that division has been doing under Brenna Bird and how you would change that?
Well, I'm not entirely sure what they've been doing under Brenna Bird. But certainly, I mean, I can tell you Tom Miller traditionally would have one or two bona fide antitrust attorneys working in that division. And I certainly, I mean, it's never going to be a large division within the AG's office, but I do want to make sure that it is, back to its pre-Brenna Bird, level of capacity and functioning. But so traditionally, that division would work with partners like in the FTC or attorneys general, other AG offices across the country. I mean, and some maybe even with the private bar. I mean, but different. You have to work with outside entities at sometimes to kind of just as a force multiplier in order to be effective in taking on challenging cases. Go ahead, Colin.
First of all, you appear to be a really great candidate.
Well, thank you.
Personable. I was going to say personable and good looking.
He's got Riz, like the kids say, right?
Good.
Riz, kids say, he's got Riz.
But looking at Brenna Bird's time in office, what are her worst decisions?
That's a great question. I mean, because the. Go ahead, Kimberly. Kimberly, what?
Well, it's hard to pick one or two, but I would say the focus on her farm and freedom attorneys. I'm not making this up. She will advertise we are seeking people to join our farm and freedom litigation division, which is essentially like when Biden was still in office, was attorneys hired to go sue the Biden administration over this, that, and the other thing. So I think that was a poor decision. Instead of, say, working on consumer protection litigation, yeah.
I mean, one of the very first things that I noticed in the early 2023 is when she put a hold on state reimbursement for Plan B, for rape victims, and mind you, I mean, these were not taxpayer dollars. The money used for that was from restitution money dollars that criminals pay to the state of Iowa to use to fund that. So that I remember when that happened, I was like, how is she going to do anything dumber than that over the course of the rest of her term? And maybe she has. I mean, you get to make those decisions for yourself. But suing to, I mean, look, we're a state with an aging population. We're a state that has a real problem with our quality of care in our nursing homes and long-term care facilities. I mean, that's to have adequate staffing, to not have patients, seniors, or people who are vulnerable, or both, get infections that can come with neglect. I mean, that's something that our family has been hit with, as have many. But to sue to prevent safe staffing standards from going into effect, and then bragging about it is one that really just sticks with me. Because the facilities that take state Medicaid dollars, when they do that, they make promises to us that they will, provide adequate care for vulnerable populations. And I think we have a right to expect nursing homes and long-term care facilities to live up to their promises, and I think the Attorney General should be enforcing those promises.
Thank you.
Yes, I worked in nursing homes for years, so
Yeah.
I understand.
And to add too, I was with long-term care ombudsman for 17 years. And a lot of the facilities are now owned by private equity firms out of New Jersey. And a lot of them gave a lot of money to the Republican candidates. And honest to God, I want to move to Mexico before I go to a nursing home, because I have seen so many horrific things in my 17 years of going into nursing homes. I would question even putting Donald Trump in one. That tells you how bad they are. I used to say my ex-husband, but he's okay now.
Well, so I was going to just talk a little bit about what we're doing here for a moment. And we started this campaign May 7th, 2025. I mean, that's really when I just reoriented my world. I mean, like I mentioned, I am still a practicing lawyer at Rush and Nicholson in Cedar Rapids. I'll be in my office tomorrow morning, like I am most every day. Then I'm out the door typically by 11:30 or noon. I come home to Mount Vernon. I take the dogs out. I have lunch. I sit for 5 or 10 minutes. Then I hustle over to this little campaign office 3 blocks away, where I'm on the phones making whatever calls need to be made 1 to 5, and then on the road, several nights and weekends a week, kind of rinse and repeat. And through just a consistent work, consistency and routine have been our friends. Over the course of this period of time, I've raised somewhere between 1.4 and 1.5 million dollars so far. So we've raised more than Brenna Bird did or Tom did over the course of the campaign 4 years ago. And with the work that we've been able to do, this is a targeted race. I mean, if you're running for Congress, they've got the DCCC that is highly involved, right? But if you're running for Attorney General, we have the Democratic Attorney Generals Association, or DAGA. And if you were to talk to the folks from DAGA, they would tell you that they have 2 red to blue, 2 pickup opportunities across the country this year, and Iowa is one of them. So we're a targeted race and hoping to get some help from DAGA, which we are going to need, because there's a DAGA, there's also a RAGA. and RAGA, I think they just put out a memo a few days ago saying that they've already, in the last 6 months or so, they've sent Brenna Bird $4.2 million. They've been shoveling money into her campaign account because they recognize that she's highly vulnerable. We've seen several polls, polling a couple of months ago, polling at the end of last year, all of which showing our race to essentially be tied, to be a dead heat. Now, mind you, I've never run for statewide office before, and we haven't spent any money, communicating with voters yet, but we still start off with being basically tied with an incumbent attorney general. So we're in a very great position. The opportunity is there. Rob is running a wonderful campaign, and so many people. Oftentimes when I'm on the phone talking to people, and they tell me how excited they are about Rob Sand and how they're really committed to helping him, and I will oftentimes say, yes, I agree with you. Rob is such an exciting candidate. He's running such a smart campaign. But can you imagine what it would be like if for Governor Rob Sand to have Brenna Bird as his Attorney General for the next 4 years? No. So, this year there's so much opportunity. We're not seeking to simply to retake the state of Iowa. We're seeking to just find balance, to find some balance in Iowa politics, and that balance looks like, certainly winning congressionals and other races, but balance looks like winning back the governor's office and the attorney general's office, and that's very, very achievable this year. So I really, again, appreciate you all for coming. We'd love to have your help in any way that you see fit to provide. But this is our opportunity, and we just have to take advantage of it this November. So